Oh, colleagues, we're so fortunate today. We are going to have the most fascinating conversation about executive function with two executive function coaches. Both have been past teachers. Gretchen currently sees kids and adults, actually. So we're talking with Chris Hanson and Gretchen Waschke of a life skills advocate. And I'm so happy you guys are here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for
for
the
having us.
invitation.
So, Chris, I had found you guys online. I was doing some research for a talk, and I found like a kind of a questionnaire. It's like a self-reflection questionnaire on executive function. So I downloaded it and I went, who is this guy? This is great. And I actually use it for a clinical interview style, especially when I'm with 9 to 18-year-old kids who are able to be self-reflective. And I don't use the whole thing, but if I ask them, what are some of the things you'd like to improve in your life? And they say, well, I lose my papers and I'm disorganized. I'm like, okay, I'm going to that section now. um, so why don't you just tell me a little bit, please, Gretchen and Chris, please just tell us, our colleagues, a little bit about who you are, how you got here, and then we'll talk about what you do.
Thank you so much. All right. Yeah. Really happy to be here and talk to you guys a little bit about what we are and what we do. I'm Chris, and I'm the founder of a company called Life Skills Advocate. Um, Life Skills Advocate was founded based on essentially 30 years plus now of me having my own lived experience with ADHD and around 10 years of classroom experience as a special education teacher here in the greater Seattle, Washington area. I was a special ed teacher in what's called an adaptive support center, which is school district lingo for the classroom that serves the students who are most impacted by their neurodivergence. Did a lot of functional academics and community-based learning and vocational readiness and like daily living skill building, stuff like that, giving them as much choice and autonomy and independence as possible. And so essentially, long story short, got kind of burned out, not from the teaching itself, but just somewhat navigating kind of like being a special ed teacher in a school district. I think a lot of people can probably relate to that. So I did a complete 180 career switch, worked at Expedia of all places as a reporting analyst in their finance department. Won't get into too much of that, but then I got the itch to come back, worked as a teacher again. Or more as I guess a paraeducator would be more accurate, at a private school, and then set up Life Skills Advocate in 2019, just before the pandemic, and been working with clients in a very similar capacity in quite a range of neurodivergencies, on executive function, on daily living skill building, on helping them navigate their neurodiversity, in a way that works for them and their family so that they can become more independent and autonomous humans. Built my caseload to about 15, 18 clients over the course of a year or so, started bringing on team members here in the Seattle area, and then expanding to some other states as well. So we currently work with over 100 clients here in the Seattle area and elsewhere. People find us virtually. The in-person stuff is just in the Seattle area, but yeah, virtually pretty much anywhere people find us. And I'm honored to be surrounded by such an amazing team and such amazing clients. And one of those team members is Gretchen, and I'd love it if she could share some experience working here and with the clients too.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both actually for the invitation to be here. I am one of the newer coaches with Life Skills Advocate. I've been with Life Skills Advocate for about 6 months or so. But I come with a background of about 25 years in various education and social work settings. I myself have 40 plus years of lived experience with ADHD. I was diagnosed, excuse me, actually after all of my academic endeavors were completed. And so this space of becoming a coach and being present in an environment where our intention is to, really bolster and hold up folks that oftentimes are either overlooked or underserved in a lot of
Mhm.
ways in traditional environments, has been such a wonderful opportunity for me, both personally and professionally, to really dig in and get to know, not only, new and different ways to approach executive functioning skills, but also to enhance and bolster my own capacity as a
Right.
person who struggles with executive function in different ways.
Mhm.
So, Life Skills Advocate has just been such an incredible place to deploy new skills and also engage with people who deeply, deeply understand
Right.
the impacts that executive functioning have and executive dysfunction could lead to
Mhm.
as we pursue our life goals. So
What kinds of so you work with kids who are mostly 14 and up. Sometimes you'll make some adjustments for that. What types of things do you do with these kids? What services is it all coaching?
Go ahead, Gretchen, if you want to take that one on, and I'll
sure.
give some.
Um, Everything that we do is very individualized. So we definitely work with kids and students, usually about 14 and up. We have many adults as well that pursue our services because they realize as they start to engage in their professional careers that they
Mhm.
need additional assistance to keep on top of the task management and time management and prioritizing and those kinds of things. Um, with students specifically, it's really individualized. It's an opportunity to do some evaluation and assessment, see where this specific executive function skills might need some additional support, note where they already have those skills and build upon what exists with them. Um, it can be anything from what I refer to as body doubling, where we're just sitting present and that additional energy of another person doing some work helps the person needing support to be more focused and to stay
Mhm.
connected to what it is that they're trying to accomplish. It can be teaching how to build a schedule so you can actually see where you have time to slow down a little bit or
Yeah.
give yourself some intentional rest when you're trying to accomplish a big goal. Um, I find a lot of the work that we do is really highlighting for people that though they may be approaching a particular task differently than someone else who might go about it in a normal way,
Mhm.
whatever that normal word means, but in a typical way.
Mhm.
But normalizing that it's okay if you're going
Mhm.
from A to D, for you to go A to C to B and to D. Did you get to
Mhm.
the same place? Sure. Did your
Right.
path look different? That's okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So a lot of it is sort of untangling the internalized sense of feeling like you're doing something wrong.
So this is so interesting. Chris, tell me a little bit about the process. Like they sign up, you do an interview, do you have some assessment tools, even if they're qualitative? And then how do you get into your in my field we call treatment planning with a child or adult? What does it look like if somebody engages you?
Right. Yeah. So it always starts with a free discovery meeting where we talk to the student or adult, and we talk to their parents. We understand like where the areas that are, are really a struggle, and what areas are making the student feel not great about their current situation. Because I think with everything we do, it's like we don't just like try to get good grades just to get good grades. Like who cares, right? It's more about improving the relationship with yourself and the relationship you have with the tasks that you're doing,
Hmm.
and the narrative that plays in your head about how good or not good you think you are in relation to those things. So a lot of the effort in the front end is spent on relationship building, and there certainly are qualitative and quantitative assessments we do. We have our assessment that we have publicly available on our website that we often administer with students, and it's a lot of talking and listening and understanding, and hearing like from the kid's perspective, or even from the client's perspective, kid or
Right,
adult,
right.
like what do they want?
Mhm.
And sometimes that's like the first time anyone's ever asked them that.
Mhm.
They're like kind of like parents or adult and teachers, not we're used to kind of being in charge, and that's okay, but like it's also okay to see what the kid wants. And then it's like some alignment happens. Like oftentimes there's a perceived misalignment between like the parent and the student. Like, I want the kid to go to college. The kid's like, no, I want to take a skip year. Well, if we actually like zoom out, what they're both saying is, I want to be happy, or I want my kid to be happy. So it's like kind of developing some common language so we can sort of start the coaching plan, with everybody on the same page. Even if people are maybe saying different things, I think they oftentimes mean the same thing, if that makes sense. So yeah, we put together a coaching plan, we take notes, we develop goals just like pretty much any executive function coaching company does. It's not particularly special to us. But I think what is special to us is just the high emphasis on client centricness, and the relationship side. Our coaches deeply, deeply care about building relationships with clients. And because when you were a student, like, which teachers and adults did you connect with most? Probably the ones that you trusted and who spent the time to like develop a relationship with you. So that's really what we do. Sorry, it was kind of a very ADHD way to answer your
No,
question.
I mean, like here to the human relationship part, because there are lots of places you can go for a transactional relationship where you walk through this curriculum and you do this and that, and the children, they have no motivation, they have no saliency, they have no agency. And
Right.
I agree with you. The relationship, I sometimes I tell people, and that I think the thing I do best after 28 years is help people feel good about themselves again.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so I love
absolutely.
that. I love the human. So Gretchen, what executive function skills? So a lot of people who take our training are clinicians, educators. What executive function skills do you think are most important for most people outside of the individual personalization? What kind of pops front of mind if you're going to say to a teacher, you know, you might want to be thinking about teaching these skills in your classroom?
When I think about where there's the most resistance, it's often task avoidance.
Hmm.
So tackling things that are not desirable tasks. So frequently we skip to either they're lazy, they're disinterested, they're disrespectful as a result of not engaging in what we're looking to extract from them, as opposed to understanding why it is that there's something that's a barrier for them that's related to whatever that task may be. Um, so when I think about what are some important things for people to know, it's teaching people how to get through the task avoidance. What part is it? Is it that you are unclear about what is the actual outcome, or you know what the outcome should be, but you don't understand the tasks to get to that ultimate outcome? Learning how to break down a goal into small enough bites that it feels attainable to whoever's looking at it. I love one of the activities that we have that's basically like, what's my goal? What are the tasks I think should be, to get there? And can I do that task? Can I do that task quickly? Do I know what that is? And until I get to a yes, I need to keep making those little tasks even smaller to make the actual checklist to reach that goal. But if I can't see the path to get to the end goal, and I don't have someone who's slowing down long enough to support me in finding what that path is, the trickle down effect that comes from that, or the ripple effect that comes from that, the overwhelm, the disappointment in self, the sense of failure, the confusion, and the isolation that comes with that, it all builds around all the other executive functioning. Do I have time management? Do I have the ability to follow a schedule? Who do I have in my support system that can help scooch me along when I need the extra assistance? And so really, I think task avoidance seems center to a lot of things that play out and also then impact other executive functioning skills and many of the clients that I have worked with.
Hmm.
So
It's so true. Yeah, Chris, what would you add?
I would add that, like, I think one of the biggest things that a lot of people just forget, or maybe they just don't even know, is that like there's a difference between a task and a goal. You know, like when we say, as an example, go do your homework or maybe go clean your room, that's kind of the goal. And it's kind of like unclear for a lot of folks with neurodivergency or executive functioning issues. Like, where do I actually start? I can't just like stop what I'm doing and literally just like have my homework materialize in front of me and start doing it. Like step one is to like go find your backpack, or step two is to like open the backpack. And some people obviously it's obviously different for everybody. Some people can hear go do your homework and they know exactly what to do. And I think it's situation dependent and like what's going on that day, or like all sorts of things. But I think it's really important, I think, to understand the difference, like kind of like what Gretchen was saying, between a task and a goal. And read your kids' body language, read their like what do they do when you tell them, when you ask them to do that? Like, do they stiffen up? Do they like kind of ping pong all over the house, or do they get to work? And depending on what they do, change, adjust the approach. I think that's one thing that I've had to adjust a lot over the years too, in the language I use with students.
It makes me wonder, this is, coaching executive function skills takes time within the relationship, and it takes meeting frequently. A student or an adult's kind of week can blow up really quickly
Yes.
when they forget to turn in the project, or we all know how that happens. How do you encourage your clients to stay motivated in your work in order to get from point A to point B efficiently? Because it takes time, it takes effort, it takes investment.
Part of it is like kind of understanding, like, I know it sounds a little bit woo woo, but like that the journey is kind of the, like the reward, so to speak, versus the grade being the reward. So if we can help our students find curiosity and like joy in the process, that can help with motivation. Of course, that takes time as well. So I think practically, especially in the beginning, like we often recommend, like, instead of doing an hour session per week, let's break it up into 2 half-an-hour sessions, or let's maybe break it up into like a 45-minute session and a 15-minute check-in. And then also on top of that, like the way our services work, we don't charge extra for like texting throughout the week and like that kind of back and forth, accountability type stuff. And like, and not just, I don't mean accountability and like we're going to check up on you. It's more like, let's celebrate when things are going well. Let's keep the conversation moving in a way that feels good. So there's a whole bunch of different things. I think that's kind of where it often starts, though, what I've seen.
Gretchen, I'm interested in some of the specific tools without getting into your proprietary content. I find that once I learn whether a student tends to take in information well visually or auditorially, some of the kids, I let them draw on my iPad. What sorts of tools do you guys use in order to meet the individual needs of your clients?
Oh, it is so varied, really. We try to meet each client where they are, and so the tools are going to be vastly different. But many of the things that I have found that are pretty consistent across the board is really like teaching and showing people how to build what I refer to as sort of a block schedule, where you take your day and you block it into chunks of time. Like, this is my morning time. Okay, how many hours or minutes do I have in that? This is the time I need for my commute / transportation time. This is my class time or my work time, depending on the age of the client that we're working with. This is where I have some downtime. And then we talk about, how are you spending that downtime? Is it actually being spent in a way that is restoring you intentionally? Is it actual intentional rest? Is it something that you're spending your downtime, twittering your time away, is what I refer to it as, where you're not necessarily being productive,
Restoring, right?
And you're not actually restoring yourself intentionally with rest, but you're avoiding something else. looking at habits and how I spend my evening. What does my nighttime routine look like? Am I doing things at night that make it harder for me to rest, which makes the fatigue the following day? So looking at sort of the cycles that each individual goes through by checking how they're spending their time, oftentimes becomes very eye-opening for clients, because they're like, oh, I'm really not tending to myself. I'm avoiding myself even by gaming, playing on my phone, scrolling through social media, whatever that may be. And I feel like that is a consistent tool that I use with most clients. And they all look different because everybody's day and everybody's life looks different, and how they check in and tune in with themselves feels different. Um, I use a lot of tools from our executive functioning, the real life executive functioning workbook, which we have access to as coaches. We're able to pull from that. And so they're, you know, it's so hard to say what tools do you use, because they are all so different. And really the tool that I use every single moment of every single coaching session is relationship. And we keep coming back to that. And Chris said something a minute ago, and I can't remember what it was, but it made me think about a client who said, oh, this client happens to be 18. And he said, my mom says that to me all the time, but it lands different when you say it. And so it's really about the relationships that we build, and the intention we put behind it. And when I asked why does it feel different when I say it? And he said, because you actually care about me getting to where I want to be. And what he hears from his parents is that they want him to get to where they want him to be. And so it's really interesting how the dynamics of relationship play out, and is our strongest and most valuable tool that we all have, is genuine connection.
Can I add to that? Is that okay?
Oh yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. So I have there's a tool I really like. It's specific, and I think it helps students like see things a little bit more from a bird's eye view, and maybe not be like sometimes stuck on when they're dealing with a task that they don't like, or an event that's coming up that they don't want to do. And it's an exercise called best case, worst case, most likely case. So a lot of times our students are paralyzed by fear in doing things that make them uncomfortable. And I think the tool teaches flexibility, which I think is an extremely important executive function skill, and problem solving. So like if you think, boy, I'm really nervous to go join that lunch group over there. I feel like they're just gonna reject me. So it's like, let's back up and say, well, what's the best case scenario? Well, best case scenario is that they let me join, and we end up having a great conversation, and I get to join. They want me to join next time. Worst case is maybe they act a little bit aloof, and they don't, maybe they're just not interested. And most likely case may actually end up being the best case in this scenario. They're probably, most people tend to be okay when you, so I think like an exercise like that can help students like feel better about taking risks, and like actually look at things a little bit more objectively, instead of sort of like letting the fear just kind of dictate what their next action is going to be. So we use that one a lot. It might be in the workbook, I can't remember, but we use it a lot. So
that leads us to your tools, because we're kind of starting to approach our 20-minute mark.
Sure. Yeah.
You guys are prolific, and it's been a really fun conversation about the human relationship and how important it is and how much you personalize things. And your program is really structured, meaning that you have put a lot of thought into the products that you create. So tell us what's available for free to our clinicians, and then what about your workbook and the other things that you have available? Because I know that I want to click buy right now.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so we have a ton of stuff that's free on our website. Like we update the blog multiple times a week with like evidence-based strategies and tools for teaching executive functioning. And they're accessible to not just clinicians and teachers and so forth, but also the individuals themselves. And in that, our mission is to be sort of like the most helpful resource on the internet for all things neurodiversity and executive functioning. So that's really what we're aiming to do. So that's an excellent free tool. We also have the free what's it called? IEP goal resource hub that is a bank of like 100 IEP goals. It's downloadable on the site with IEP goals across every EF skill and formatted in a way that like makes sense. It's like a spreadsheet that you can filter and filter on the subject area and filter on the skill itself. And I encourage everybody to check that out, as well as the assessment that we use. In addition to, we have a EF 101 resource hub that just kind of like gives people a high level overview on each of the skills. So like a ton of free stuff. And we also have some paid stuff. We have our workbook, which I'm a big fan of because I made it.
What's in it? What's in the workbook, Chris?
So every chapter is its own EF skill, knowing full well that like EF skills don't live in a vacuum, they overlap. But each chapter starts with a pre-assessment and then talks a little bit about the skill from a scientific perspective and just like a overall practical perspective as well. And then based on your assessment answers, you jump down to this appropriate exercises. So it's not a workbook that's intended to be like, all right, start at page 1. Okay, you know, it's not a narrative. It's truly a workbook that's like meant to be like a choose your own adventure type. Like do the assessments and pick the exercises that work, and jump around if you need. And so that, you know, I think that's one way that our workbook separates itself from others, is like it's really focused on the discrete skills, and it's very assessment driven, and not just like this big chunk of text staring at you in the face kind of thing.
And it's not a single process. It's one where you can take the beginning assessment at each chapter and determine, oh, my skills are actually pretty strong here. This isn't something I need to focus on yet. Or maybe I'll come back to it if I feel like I need a little bit of boosting. And with neurodivergence, especially ADHD, novelty is key. So if you feel like you can bounce around in a book and it's still effective, it actually is interesting to look at versus page to page, chapter to chapter. It gives it a sense of novelty as you move through it, which is also very helpful in a lot of ways.
And like half of the exercises, I believe, maybe not half, but like at least a third of them are scattered throughout the website on various blog posts that can be downloaded for free. So we really try to like up the free stuff, because it's just it's important that this stuff be accessible, you know, and it also like not just from just a straight up access standpoint, but from a price point standpoint as well. Like the workbook is $87, but with like, we have a coupon code for all you guys, which is Dr. Lynn, DRLYNNE, for 50% off if you want to use that. But yeah,
it's a wonderful tool. I mean, you guys have done something really special, because all of us have executive function books. I've written executive function books. It's a whole different thing to be able to go to your site, have, you know, EF 101, have the IEP goals, have the self-assessment, which I actually use as a clinical interview. And then your workbook for people who are doing coaching, or people who want to do their own self-help and their own self-exploration. You know, in closing, well, first of all, thank you so much. This is so fascinating. And I think you're providing a very important service.
thank you so much.
I sincerely mean that. What I wonder is what's next? Like, where are you guys heading now?
So the big thing we're working on right now, we actually just launched intuitive eating for neurodivergent minds. It's a 9-week coaching program that kind of slaps diet culture in the face, essentially, and works for our neurodivergent population who are trying to be more intentional around eating. That's on our website. Nicole and Shannon, who are 2 of our coaches, developed it. And I'm just super excited that it exists. There's just not much like it out there. We're also working on version 2 of the workbook, which is going to be a more accessible digital version that doesn't require a 200-page PDF that you have to like work through. It's going to be a little bit more pick your exercises one by one type thing. I don't know, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I don't want to take too much of the time, but I mean, we're working on developing a robust financial aid program for our coaching. That's one of our big efforts, because like we're not covered by insurance. there's just not a lot of financial options out there for people who want EF coaching. So
Right.
like we're trying to work with organizations and do even some of our own financial aid internally as well. So it's just kind of a hard process, but
I know,
but we-
I regret that as well. Like, it bothers me that only really people who have resources can get this kind of help. And
yeah,
so I too am really dedicated to providing a ton of free services and programming. And I'm so grateful that you do that. Now I've got a little technical question. If one of our attendees, like as an example, downloads your IEP bank, are they
Mhm.
allowed to share that, or do you want them to send the people to your site so that they're on your list? How does that work? Because I see our colleagues really using these resources.
Yeah, I mean, it's free. They're welcome to share it. I think, I mean, I mean, I'll be honest, it's nice to get people on our list, but
Mhm.
I don't want to like that to be a hindrance for people who just want to share the cool stuff that we have. So
Okay.
please share it. Option one is to just share it. Option two is to join our list and get all and then kind of see what else we have going on. But
Yeah.
people are welcome to share things that are free. Just ask that people not share the workbook or any paid products.
Okay. And
Yeah.
Gretchen, where are you heading?
Right now, a lot of my focus is around supporting the financial aid options, and seeking funding to underwrite the cost for folks who are unable to obtain our services due to financial interference.
Sure.
The other thing that I feel very deeply connected to is actually parent coaching and teaching parents how to engage and be connected with their young people that they're ushering into adulthood, and helping to build skills around how to approach, how to address, and how to, normalize really what their kids are going through, even if they didn't experience that themselves. And when I think about parents, that is really any adult who is raising young people. The term itself is a pretty loose term in my brain. So really giving folks the skills to slow down and build relationship and move forward in a productive way. And that's something that we're also focusing on as an agency to be able to offer something that is a more structured, specific program for parents. Yeah.
So for our educators and teachers and parents, they go to your site for the self-help materials. What if we want to actually send you a referral? Do we still go through the website?
It doesn't have to be through the website. I think probably the easiest way would just be to email us directly. You can email me, Chris@lifeskillsadvocate.com, or you can email our general inbox, which is admin@lifeskillsadvocate.com. And yeah, I mean, we're always happy to meet with people and talk through cases as well, if as long as you have permission to. But if you're not quite sure if somebody might be a good fit, always happy to talk again, as long as there's permission in place and stuff. But yeah, those are probably the best ways to do it.
Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing with us. I'm so excited to have you as a resource. We know that there are more children and adults who want help, need help with their executive functions than there are service providers available. So I'm thrilled that you can do this nationally, and we can both go to you for professional development and tools, as well as helping our beautiful kids. So I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right. Have a lovely day, guys.
You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.